Good morning. We'd like to get started if we can. It's good to see everybody here this morning. It's a beautiful day. It's been a beautiful fall. And looking forward to this day of dedication of the marker, historical marker. The flag is already raised. And we'd like to begin then with the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Sons of the Union Veterans of the Civil War, Cadet Blessing Camp number 126. Please join me in a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in singing the first verse of the national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you. You may be seated. I have to apologize for my voice. It's not doing so well. Well, I'd like to thank you all for being here today again, and I'd like to introduce the person who's really behind putting this together, and that's Nellie Ruby Taylor. Ruby has worked really hard for many, many months actually to do this. It's been over a year, probably, Ruby, hasn't it?
Yes.
Well over a year working on getting this marker here, getting everything together, and getting this done. So Nellie is in the who's who of America. She's involved in many, many, many things. She's a teacher. She's also been involved in writing a book. And so Ruby is very talented. And with that, I'm going to turn this to Ruby.
Thank you so very much for coming. And I think that this all happened because what all of you did. It could not happen without the works of everyone that's here. and all of the American people who were behind us. The Pentagon was even involved in getting the history from the Army. I asked the president where was a certain letter, and he said to talk to some other people. So I called the Pentagon, and they gave me another name, and I got the letter. And we're very thankful for our legislator here, Mr. Clyde Evans. He's done a lot for this county and for this country. We appreciate Mr. LaRue. So we're going to just welcome you today, but this was done because of every act of every person here and others. It was a complete job done by, it just could not happen if you didn't do what you did. So I will not take any credit for getting this done. We all work together. Now there is one word that connects all of us with Abraham Lincoln, Jesus Christ, God, and all the people. Anybody know what that word is? The word is hallow. When President Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address, he was dedicating part of the battlefield for a cemetery for the soldiers. That was in November 1863. He could not consecrate. He could not make that hallow that ground. Only God can hallow that ground. There was so much bloodshed of all Americans on both sides. It was just Americans who died. And he was just so sick of Americans dying. He wished he could make the ground holy and bring the lives back. He could not do that. And so the first time we hear the word hallow, it's in the Old Testament when they built a church for God, and they asked him, will you hallow your name in this place? He said, if you built it for me and you keep my laws and statutes, I will hallow my name in this place. The next time we hear this word hallow, it comes from Jesus Christ himself. When he was teaching us how to pray, he taught us to pray, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Holy is thy name, is what he was saying. Holy is thy name is to be praised, and glorified is thy name. So we hear this word again when President Abraham Lincoln was at the Gettysburg Address. The death was so terrible of American people. Just millions of Americans died. He was just so sick of Americans dying that he said he wished he could hallow the ground. He wished he could change it and make everything holy. So we're going to talk about today all these things from these great speakers, and they're going to give you the history pretty well of what happened. But you have to remember, we are here today because we are the future of yesterday's history. We are who President Abraham Lincoln prayed for, the men died for. All the veterans, I'd like for you to stand up. All the veterans here today, please stand up. We really appreciate our veterans because they are the ones who started in the Continental Congress, and they decided that they would go out and fight and do something for us. So we appreciate our veterans all over the world, all of our forces. So with that, I want to introduce our Masters of Ceremony, Nathan R. Kirk. Nathan is an excellent citizen. He's an excellent father. He's a wonderful community worker. He has a lovely family. He's a model for American citizenship. Nate is currently the administrator of Ohio State Forest for the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Division of Forestry. He has been with the Division of Forestry for about 32 years. Is a commissioned forest officer and has performed duties in 5 different positions. As State Forest Administrator, Nate is responsible for the oversight of all activities on state forests, including personnel, building infrastructure, budgets, lands, purchases, and leases. Prior to coming to the Ohio Division of Forestry, Nate worked for the New Mexico Division of Forestry after graduating from North Arizona University in 1977 with a BS in Forest Management. Nate has also spent 33 years fighting wildland fires across the United States. And you know, we really honor him because a lot of times they work with the National Guard and stuff and fighting for us. We appreciate all the people who secure our land, and we certainly appreciate you.
Thanks, Ruby. Continuing on with this morning's ceremony, I'd like to read first a bit of the history of this church. Before the Civil War, a group of settlers of Baptist faith living in Springfield Township and surrounding townships felt the need for a church. They constructed a log building on the Vinnie property. This became the only church for miles around, and on Sunday a large crowd gathered to worship. They came on horseback, wagons, buggies, and on foot. The founding members were many, and I'm not sure I'll read every name. Daniel Vinnie, Jacob Brown, McDaniels, Walsh Jarrett, Matthews, Granny Maybe, Willie Lewis, and the list goes on and on of the founding members. In 1863, the log church was destroyed by fire, and after the close of the Civil War, a new church was built on this present site. The people were poor financially, but worked together. Those who had money to give did so willingly. Others gave logs, which they took to the sawmill to be cut into lumber, and others, of course, gave of their time to build the church. So we are in a very historical place here. The marker text reads, and you will find it in your program. The New Hope Baptist Church was organized around 1860, burned in 1863, and was rebuilt in the fall of 1864. Once called the Harris Colored Baptist Church, the edifice's name, New Hope, was chosen because it represented the hope of people struggling for a new beginning and a place to worship God. The church's graveyard is the burial place of members of the United States Colored Troops, veterans of the Civil War. The war itself also came to the Harrisburg area. Units of the Confederate General John Hunt Morgan's infamous raiders rode through northern Gallia County on July 18, 1863, taking for themselves horses, food, and valuables. In pursuit, Union forces confiscated horses, hay, and other goods from area residents, including those of 2 men from Harrisburg. We would like to officially go ahead at this point and unveil the marker.
Okay, Mr. Keith Jeffers.
Go ahead.
He's going to get it for you.
All you gotta do is clear the side.
All you got to do is take this off. Take this off.
Reverse chair.
Put the chair on this side.
Now, Mr. Keith Jeffers will come and give us a presentation.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today on behalf of the Department of Ohio Commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Mr. Sam Compton, and also on behalf of the Gallia County Veterans Service Commission. Everyone has heard taps at some time or another, and taps is a song a bugler plays at a military funeral. There are several versions of taps, and there are many stories behind taps, how it originated, where and when, and so forth. So I have selected the version that I feel is most appropriate for us here today. We have all heard the haunting melody of taps. It's the song that gives us a lump in our throats and usually tears in our eyes. But do you know the story behind the song? If not, I think you will be pleased to find out about its humble beginnings. Reportedly, it began in 1862 during the Civil War, when the Union Army Captain Robert Ellacombe was with his men near Harris's Landing, Virginia. The Confederate Army was on one side of a narrow strip of land, and the Union was on the other side. During the night, Captain Ellaby heard the moans of a soldier who was severely wounded on the battlefield. Not knowing if it was a Union or a Confederate soldier, the captain decided to risk his own life and bring the stricken man back for medical attention. Crawling on his stomach through gunfire, the captain reached the stricken soldier and began pulling him toward the encampment. When the captain finally reached his own lines, he discovered it was actually a Confederate soldier, but the soldier was dead. The captain lit a lantern and suddenly caught his breath and went numb with shock. In the dim light, he saw the face of the soldier. It was his own son. The boy had been studying music in the South when the war broke out. Without telling his father, the boy had enlisted in the Confederate Army. The following morning, heartbroken, the father asked permission to give his son a full military burial despite his enemy status. His request was only partially granted. The captain had asked for a full entourage of military songs and of military musicians. They only partially granted his request since the soldier was a Confederate soldier, but out of respect for the father, they did say that they could give him one musician. The captain chose a bugler. He asked the bugler to play a series of musical notes he had found on a piece of paper in the pocket of the dead youth's uniform. This wish was granted. The haunting melody, which we know as taps, used at military funerals, was born. We've heard the bugler play taps. We're going to hear the bugler play taps here in a few minutes, but there are very few people that know the words to taps. And I'm not a singer, but it goes like this. Day is done, gone the sun, from the lakes, from the hills, from the sky, all is well, safely rest, God is nigh. Fading light dims the sight, and the star dims the sky. Gleaming bright from afar, drawing nigh, falls the night. Then good night, peaceful night, till the light of the dawn shineth bright. God is near, do not fear. Friend, good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffers. And taps we'll conclude with taps at the end of the ceremony this morning. Speakers, we have several speakers scheduled for this morning. I believe Elizabeth Scott with the Governor Strickland's office is not here. And I believe the representative from Sheriff Brown's office is not here also. So with that, we will move to State Representative Clyde Evans. And I believe most of you know Mr. Evans. Representative Evans is currently in his fourth term in the House of Representatives, and he represents the 87th House District, which includes Gallia, Jackson, and Vinton counties, and portions of Lawrence and Ross counties. Representative Evans was named 2003 Jackson County Township Person of the Year, and in 2005 was given the Coalition of Appalachian Development Champion in the Legislature Award. In 2006, he was recognized with the 2005-06 UCO Watchdog of the Treasury Award, and in 2007, I'll let the car go by. He received a special award from the NAACP. Representative Evans received a bachelor's degree from Union College, a master's degree from Eastern Kentucky University, a PhD from the University of Southern Mississippi, and an honorary doctorate in public service from the University of Rio Grande. He currently keeps a home in Rio Grande in Gallia County with his wife. Mr. Clyde Evans.
What a great morning. A few months ago, we gathered here to pay homage to the role that black soldiers played in the Civil War. We focused on the challenges that they had to overcome, and when those charges of the country and the war did not, when those in charge of the country and the war did not feel that they could and would fight. The black man silenced his critics and overcame those obstacles as he has each time when given an opportunity. Today, we are here to pay homage to an amazing group of people who were brought into this country in chains in 1619 and remained in bondage for 246 years. During that time, their families were split and attempts were made to crush their identity and culture. Their captives may have had control over where they lived, when and where they worked, where they slept, and when and where they ate. But they did not have control over their minds and spirits. During those years, they were considered property by our Constitution, sold, beaten, and separated from their families. But their spirits and hopes remained strong, and with the help and guidance from the Almighty God, they were guided through this black period of American history. But once emancipation came and the celebrating and euphoria was over, they found themselves in a state that seemed like an empty dream. They had no property, capital, nor place to go. They only had their labor to offer, and again, they were at mercy of an angry Southerners that had just lost a war. In some ways, they were more vulnerable, in a more vulnerable position than before, because in the past,